Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Majority and Petey out here talk about the illest Mr. Don Dada Big Papa Notorious, the movie. This is a tribute to the late, great, notorious B.I.G. Goddess bless, a legend, an icon, and an inspiration to me and many others. I first started listening to Biggie Smalls in my formative years, in my adolescence, not too long ago. And granted, at the time I was not much acquainted with hip-hop. Biggie Smalls is what got me into hip-hop. He was the first artist I could listen to and actually hear the man behind the track. And I cannot stress how important it is in any medium, whether it be video, music, books, games, that you have an interaction with the creator behind it, that you are able to associate something. And Biggie Smalls taught me that lesson. So for that, I've always been grateful, and I've always been curious about this movie. I've actually seen the Biggie Smalls documentary several times, and while that film is instructional and taught me a lot about the life of Biggie Smalls, there were still some gaps in between I didn't know about. And granted, this is a film telling, so it's not all going to be, on the feather, but it still has a unique perspective that I was very curious about. So, I had often heard mixed reviews on this film, actually a lot of negative, but not from people with more than half a brain. And I can only imagine why. So the first reason I would think is that people are too secluded in their mind states and their thinking, and they rock the West Coast till they die, so they're, about that Tupac or Get Out life. So, I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's 2016, you gotta lighten up and you gotta experience the entirety of things as they are. You cannot just sequester yourself to such a small, thinking. The other reason I would think is that the film was too Hollywood, that it was very, it has like very Hollywood tropes, like characters that don't really fit the bill, or quick editing and dramatization. And on my first seeing of this film, just last night, I didn't get Hollywood out of this at all. A lot of it is very faithful. It really does feel like a tribute film to Biggie. And first thing I would compliment is the casting. Even though I won't say that Biggie Smalls and even Tupac, who are in the film, are represented by, seeing shadows, by someone who's identical, and that would be impossible unless you're putting up holograms, and I'd rather see the actor. They are played by people who have endearing attitudes towards the performance of acting as them. I would say, on looks and rapping skills alone, what's the guy's name? I think it's Jamal Woolard. He's 90% close. But in terms of demeanor, and what I envision Biggie Smalls, to be like, through his music and through the footage I've seen of him through the documentary, he hits it on the head. He plays a very convincing Biggie Smalls. He's got that sort of, lazy sleuth to him, but at the same time, he acts like he runs the place, and he's got his mind, on his money and, on his priorities, on the people that are important to him. And you see him evolve throughout the film, which is another way that this film is strong, is in its themes. It has a good development of the character of Biggie Smalls and seeing him with his community of people, his girlfriends, his music advisors, P. Diddy, and, his clique from his hometown, as well as Tupac. There's a big commentary here. In fact, it starts at the death of Biggie Smalls, and then goes from there, starts from the beginning through his childhood, and goes on. They even cast Biggie Smalls' actual son, Christopher Wallace, so that's pretty awesome that they have him included here. It does give the film some authenticity, but at the same time it's very authentic as it is, and there's not much time spent on just the childhood. This is a full telling, for the most part, of the latter life of Biggie Smalls. And one of the major themes that is present in the film is that of character development. So Biggie Smalls is constantly effing up. He's making mistakes left and right. He gets locked up. He gets put in the pen. But all the same, he's got his priorities right, and he's learning from his mistakes every time. So you see that in his earlier life, what's important is making that quick cash and street peddling, and that rhyming is just, a side gig. But when he gets locked up in the pen, rhyming is his only escape. It's his only thing to look forward to by the time he gets out. And by the time he gets out, he's craving that record deal. And even though, he thinks about going back to peddling, he doesn't, because he sees the dream in front of him. He sees P. Diddy, and he sees his vision for giving the East Coast, a strong hip-hop icon that they've been lacking. So that's just one example. Throughout the film, he goes through a lot of development, and a lot of this has to do with a lot of the gray areas that I wasn't aware of. Some details about his relationship life, and it does get quite graphic in a pleasurable way. But details about characters like Lil' Kim, or even his high school acquaintance, or Faith Evans, things I didn't know about. So one example is, there's a track that Biggie does with Lil' Kim. I forget if it's Hypnotize or another one. But there's a whole attitude that Lil' Kim gives in the song, in her verse. And I would never have considered it twice had I not seen the events that the two partake in the film. So in that respect, whether completely faithful or not, Notorious, the director's cut, gives you a lot of insight into a lot of the details. So there's the love life, then there's also the major event, in my opinion, for the film, and as far as if you're talking, the life of Biggie Smalls, the interaction between him and Tupac and how it was handled by the media. And that's why I don't think this is a very Hollywood-style film, even if it does say Fox on here. It's handled in a way that generates questions. So while the beef was ongoing between Biggie and Tupac, Tupac gets angry at Biggie, thinks he sent his cohorts on him, and Biggie's, stressing out over the situation. You see that he sees the media as almost a weapon against their improving the relations. It's in a way exploiting it to sell papers and things like that, to generate East Coast, West Coast beef. And he recognizes that. And he manages to kind of stray away from it, but he also gets entangled in it. And that's another way he's making mistakes. And it inevitably leads to Tupac's death. However, Biggie does feel, the sense of guilt in a way. So it's not all one-sided that, the East Coast was right here and Tupac was tripping. No, it's a little bit of both, and then the media interaction tied in between. So I really like how the film handles that whole situation. I'm someone who lived vicariously through the internet to experience these events. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I didn't grow up in the time period where the news was being televised about the East Coast, West Coast beef. So to see it handled in this film and portrayed a certain way, it gives me a little insight into what it might be like at the time. So that's something I really appreciated, is that you get that sense of perspective. And again, the biggest theme that I got out of this film is that it's a learning experience for Biggie Smalls, and that he makes it to the top, but he still goes to points where he's at rock bottom, where the only thing he can think about is how death is better than what he's going through then. And all the same, still coming out on top of it. So in that respect, I think the film does preserve Biggie's legacy as an inspiration, and it shows you how far he's come even after his death, when the funeral is going on in the streets, and even after Tupac's death, how he learned, and how going back to Cali in a way was the best thing for him to do. Even if he could have prolonged his life by not going, it showed that he was trying to put the BS behind him and move on from there. So this is a very strong film in my opinion. I don't have any criticisms, not offhand, that I can think of. Granted, I mean, it doesn't talk about all the interactions between, Biggie and some superstars like, I don't know, Jay-Z or Eminem or Method Man. But it hits on a lot of the big bullet points. And to me, that's important. So I got a high recommendation, a big thumbs up for my man Biggie Smalls and Notorious. I think this is a great film, especially for the time period 2009, where you're seeing a lot of junk starting to come out. Not starting, but for like the past 16 years, what have we been getting this? That's a notable American film. So I thought this was great. I'm looking forward to All Eyes on Me when that releases. And again, big ups to my dude, Biggie Smalls. He's a legend, and I'll give him props any day. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you like Biggie or Tupac, if you draw a preference, or you like them both. Or if you like Big L. I think they're all great. So, and if you've seen the movie. That's it. Me and Petey. Peace out. All eyes on me. And Petey.